Okay, once again, good evening, dear students. For those who have just joined in, this is Raghavan Bia. So I'll be taking bridge course chemistry for you.
Anna, it's recording.
Okay. Am I audible to every student here? You can all hear
Yes,
me?
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm double checking for the reason that today there is little network issue at my residence. I'm using mobile tethering instead of the Wi-Fi. So I'm just reconfirming if I'm audible. If any network issue is there, please report to me. I'll just try to rectify as much as possible. Okay. So today we are going to take up some glimpse of structure of atom as bridge course to bridge the gap there, whatever it is required for us. Okay. So fine. So we are having the bridge course. This is the fifth day for you. Okay. So since fifth day, so the bridge course is a bridge for you to the fascinating world of science, so that your interest and urge for experiencing science enhances. So that's the basic idea. See, one thing you need to have a different perception for science. So generally, people think about learning science to become some engineer or doctor or something like that. Well, fine. But basically, the way you think about science have to be perfect, and the way you think about science and relate to the science is what you need to have a different, different clarity for this. What is that exactly? Knowing science is knowing nature. So you study physics, chemistry, mathematics, biology, electronics, computer science, whatever you study in science. It is all about exploring nature, the how exactly the composition, structure, the properties, all these things you're going to study, right? So knowing science is knowing nature. So it's simply nothing but nature is God's creation, is correct, no? So we should always have the perception that a good student of science explores the creation of God. So you're just reading about or understanding the creation, the God own creation. So therefore, being a science student is really a fortunate thing. Okay. So of course, every discipline students have their own advantages, but being a science student, you have little more or little more extra advantages than any other discipline students. Okay. Right. We'll come to the structure of atom. So when I say structure of atom, immediately uh, one thing generally students know, yeah, we know about it. Everything is made of atom. We know. Okay. Anything and everything. So when I say anything and everything is made of atom, so can we give some meaning for that? Let's see what is the meaning of that. What does it exactly imply when we say everything, anything is made up of atom? So when it comes to these stars, or when it comes to planets, or anything for the planet, it may be moon, or any matter existing, four different states: solid, the liquid, gaseous state, and at very high temperature, the plasma state. So all these states, they are made up of these atoms. Of course, the plasma state is composed of ionized matter. Of course, before that, it is atoms. Also, when we look into the things around us, it may be a plant or a tree. Okay, similarly, a flower. It may be a hill, sand, or it may be water. Anything that you see around it is made of atoms. And we have materials around us of diverse properties. Correct? We have materials around. Every matter has its own properties. Again, the property of that matter is because of the atom itself. Atom is the basis of all the properties. So if one particular matter has a unique property which is different from another, it's all about the atoms present in those matter. Okay. For example, this contrasting differences between the diamond and the graphite. Diamond is very hard and brilliant. It is well known for its brilliance. Graphite is soft and it is used for writing. Both are made up of carbon atoms. Correct? No? Both are made up of carbon. But what makes the difference is the structure. The way how the carbon atoms are bonded to one another to give definite structure in diamond is different from the graphite. We say in diamond the carbon atoms have been bound three-dimensionally by a structure called tetrahedral structure. Whereas in graphite, the carbon atoms are bound in two-dimensional manner, in a sheet-like manner, hexagonal ring-like structure in the manner. And that itself is the difference between the hardness and softness. Brilliance only luster. And the diamond has high density, graphite has less density. You can break the graphite, while by using diamond you can cut other metals and other glasses or even diamond. So the major difference between the diamond and graphite, though both are made of atoms, is carbon atoms, is the structure. So structure is also one of the important things. Similarly, a particular matter existing in solid, liquid, gaseous state, certain solids will be easily fusible, certain solids will be easily sublimable. So these are all properties again attributed for the atoms, the interactions they have. See, certain substances attract other substances, like you have seen the magnetism. So magnet attracts iron and all other ferromagnetic materials. So this property again is because of the atoms present in the magnet. Similarly, you have variety of medicines. So particular disease, there is a particular drug design. It's all about the atoms, how they react with one another. The aggregation of atom is nothing but molecule. So molecules are there making substance. So it's all about how exactly the atoms, they have the properties based on that only the drug to be designed. Correct? So atom is everything. The first person who told about atom as per the literature is John Dalton, because we follow the Western literature in our academics. But way back before Christ, in our literature, a saint by name Kana Maharshi. Kana Maharshi has given the idea of everything is made up of atoms. Maybe. But what is no unfortunate thing is you need to mute your mic. Okay. Denaka. Denaka. Just mute yourself. Okay. So in our literature, it's been mentioned that everything around us is made up of small particle called Kana. So Kana Maharshi has given that. But what is acclaimed across the world is the literature that's been rather being implemented or enforced. So therefore, as per that John Dalton, 1808, he is the first person who gave the idea of atom. Correct? So he, coined the word atom for the first time in his famous theory. So that is the atomic theory of matter. According to that, every material around us in any physical state is made up of smallest, minute, indivisible, invisible particle called atom. So matter around us, according to him, made of minute, indivisible, invisible, fundamental particle called atom. That was the definition as per the understanding of John Dalton. Correct? It was, according to him, indivisible, invisible. Frankly, when we look at what we know now about atom and the definition that was given by John Dalton when he thought of atom, is almost contrast. Okay, indivisible according to John Dalton. Now, it can be divided further. It is divided to such an extent that atom we have taken, we found out there is electron, proton, neutron. Then we went inside the neutron, we went inside the nucleus, the neutron, subatomic particles, everything, and we started finding out subnuclear particles, mesons. Okay, so many other subnuclear particles which are being exchanged inside the nucleus. That's been found. Of course, when it comes to visibility of atom, till now we have indirect means of looking at the atoms. We can get the imaging and all. So exactly, we will not be able to clearly see the picture that the way we see individuals. May not be, but there are other indirect means to see the atoms and take the imaging of the atoms in the molecules. And to that extent, it is visible, and it is not fundamental. So as per that, the concept of atom is what we know is almost the reverse of what has been proposed by John. Correct. So it is divisible, visible, and not fundamental. Now, as a okay. So when we say fundamental particle, basically we speak about electron, negative, proton, positive, neutron, the neutral particle. Okay. All these things, you need to know this mass and charge of all these electron, proton, neutron. Okay. Just need to remember. We are going to discuss again these things when we take up the first PUC syllabus, actual chapter, that is structure of atom in our syllabus. We are going to speak once again. Okay. Fine. See how exactly these subatomic particles are arranged, structured inside an atom. So there are theories which has been put forward. Somebody in the beginning they told it's like a fruit cake or plum cake. The mass is positive. The electrons are like the fruits inside embedded. But later somebody told, so no, it is not like that. There is atom which contains nucleus, positively charged portion at the center. The overall positive charge is balanced by the electron, which are revolving in differentials. So when we get the idea of when we get the term atom, immediately we imagine the atom in the manner that there is nucleus which is positive and there are differentials where electrons are. You can have a kind of correlation between the atom and the planetary motions. So taking the Earth and Moon, so there is Moon revolves around the Earth, Earth revolves around the Sun. So such kind of a miniature version is there inside the atom. There is a kind of similar. So that's what we say. We can't, go exploring the universe. It is infinite. Correct. As you explore, it becomes more complex. Like that, you get into atom, it is becoming more and more complex. So some kind of analogy is there with the planets, universe, and inside there. Similar, if not exactly same. Okay. So as you get into the atom, it becomes more and more complex. Why do we say that? That's because in the beginning we told that atom is fundamental. We got in. We came to know electron, proton, neutron. We got in. There are some other particles which are being exchanged. So like that, there is lot of complexity inside there. It is not simply electron revolving around the nucleus in a two-dimensional path. Instead, electron is revolving around the nucleus in three-dimensional region. Like that, things have become complicated. So that's why there is complexity outside, there is complexity inside. Correct? So there is kind of analogy that you can draw between the electron revolution around the nucleus and the, if not exactly. Okay. So whenever we say atom, electrons are there around the nucleus. But where exactly the electron resides in an atom? Where exactly electron resides? So that question. Now it is the student talk. Where exactly electron reside in an atom? Can anybody answer this now? You can unmute yourself or you can chat. Let us have some interaction. So including me, there are 41 here. So there should be 40 answers now. Come on, students.
Sir, it revolves around the nucleus.
Why? Yeah, I want little more volume from your end. Audibility. Ah,
It revolves around the nucleus.
okay. It revolves around the nucleus. What is that exactly? It's called. Where exactly?
Orbits.
Orbits. Orbits. Okay. So any other answers? I have got some response in the chat also. In their paths outside the nucleus. Sumedha Pati. Okay. And okay, I have got one more response. Okay. In the orbital. Orbital. Okay. So shells. Shells. Okay. In the orbitals. Okay. That's fine. Uh, is there any other answers from students? Okay. Bharat Chandra says it revolves around the nucleus in certain orbits named KLMN. Okay. Right. It's not. Is it a small KLMN or capital K? Huh? So it's capital. That's fine. So that is what. Okay. So when we say it's an orbit, uh, orbit is actually not the place of electron. We can rather understand the orbit as path of electron. Okay, path of electron. In a path of electron simply moving. So where does it reside means? So now, for example, where do you reside? In your house, in your room. In your room, that your room is your place. Like that, electron resides in an atom in its room. That's called orbital. In its room called orbit. The path of electron can be assumed as orbit. The room of electron, the house of electron can be the orbit. So in particularly, I'll call it as a room of electron. There is some correlation for that. Okay. Okay. When I say that orbital, we know orbit. Okay. Some of you may be knowing orbital also. Orbital also. Let me explore something more about this orbit. So where is an orbital? See, where is electron? The answer was orbital. Now the question is, where is orbital? Answer, anybody? Where is orbital? Don't say it's around the nucleus in an atom. That is there. But apart from that, even orbital is there around the nucleus. So where exactly orbital belong? Again, there is an answer in the orbit. Okay. Apart from that, any more responses? Where is an orbital is the question. Hmm? Where is an orbit? Along the path of electron, Madhura. So I want to hear your voices also. You can unmute and speak. No hesitation. So John Dalton theory itself has become wrong. Why should we hesitate? Correct, no? Which was assumed to be correct for decades. So that has become wrong. Now you can answer. Let it be wrong. No issue. Come on. Okay. Here. Come on, Gopal Krishna. Amodini. So I simply randomly I'm calling someone. Okay. It can be anywhere in the orbit. Okay. So now nobody has given this term. What is it? Where is electron? In an orbit. Where is an orbital? So orbital is there in a sub-shell. Shell we know. Shell is nothing but energy level. Where is an orbital? Orbital is there in a subshell. So we got to know electron is there in the orbital. Then what is orbital? So it's the place where electron resides. Where is the orbital? It is in a subshell. Now what is our next question? Where is the subshell? Okay. The three-dimensional space surrounding. Okay. This is GC Bhanu. I know it is Sarthaka. Okay. So your answer is Exactly correct. It is the answer for my next question. But anyhow, let us go in the systematic manner. Okay, Anagha, specific distance from nucleus. Meda says SPDF subshells. Oh, very good. Okay. Now, when I say that, where is the subshell? Uh, it's in a shell. Subshell is there in a shell. Orbital is there in a subshell. Subshell is there in a shell. Now, where is the shell? Yes, you know this. It's around the nucleus. So now we have this orbital. Where is electron? Orbital. Where is orbital? Subshell. Where is subshell? In a shell. Where is shell? Around the nucleus. Okay. So now atom contains at the center nucleus, surrounding which there is shell. Inside the shell, subshell. Inside the subshell, orbital. Inside the orbital, electron. Correct? So that's all. Now, when I say subshell, somebody else has given me the even subshells also. So, what are these subshells and which are those examples? Okay, subshells are S subshell, P subshell, D subshell, F subshell. Then we call this one as orbital, no? S orbital, P orbital, D orbital. In our day-to-day usage, we say S orbital only. So, to be specific, a P subshell has 3 orbitals. So, to be specific, we have to say that. So, in regular usage, it becomes orbital subshell, one of the same. Okay, but correctly, orbital is there in a subshell. S, P, D, F, they are all subshells. These subshells, S, P, D, F, contains orbitals in them. Okay, so orbitals. So, let's go to the subshells contains orbitals. Now, you need to know each subshell contains same number of orbitals or different number of orbitals. That's the thing. Now, S subshell has only one orbital. I call with I would call the subshells with an analogy that the subshell is like a house. Okay, the house or the home of electron, the entirely is considered as subshell. Each room is like an orbital. Okay, so there is single bedroom house, there is double bedroom house, there is triple bedroom house. Sometimes there may be more than 3 bedroom also. Okay, there are people who can have 4, 5, 6 also. Okay, like that, here also electron is there in an orbital, orbital is there in a subshell. So different subshells, SPDF, each subshell has its own number of orbitals. S subshell has one orbital. It's like one BHK house. Okay, so just an analogy. So that's why we represent S subshell with a box. That box, what we write is a symbolic representation. It's not that inside an atom there will be box, box, box. It's not that. Okay, it is a symbolic representation. An orbital is written with a box. So S subshell has one orbital. That's why it's single box. Similarly, P subshell has different number of orbitals. How many? 3 orbitals. So how do we represent that? A block of 3 boxes. That entire block is P subshell. Each box in the entire block, each box is an orbital. So 3 boxes represent, 3 different orbitals in the P subshell. Okay. Now D subshell has 5 orbitals. You can see. Correct. So D subshell has different number 5 orbitals. Then F orbital. F subshell has how many orbitals? Totally 7 orbitals. You can see every subshell has its own number of orbitals, and from SPDF, as we know, the number of orbitals present in each subshell is increasing. It's like F subshell is a big house with 7 rooms. A D orbital is also relatively maybe not as big as F, but it is a bigger house with 5 rooms. So P subshell is like a subshell is house, and there are 3 rooms in that. Inside the room, there is electron. Okay, so you are like an electron. You are in a room. Room is in a house. So you are there in a room. Room is orbital. Orbital is there in subshell. That is house. Okay, something like that. You can understand it. Okay. Now further question arises. What is that? S, P, D, F subshells are. What next? Okay, S, P, D, F. subshell is there. What next? Is that is all, or is there any other subshell possible? I think you would have seen there. I gave you the clue also. Can anybody tell me? You can unmute and speak. SPDF subshells we know. Apart from that, in an atom, is there any subshells, other subshells possible? Come on, so
Sir, G and H.
Summit. Okay. G and H is also possible. Only G and H? SPDF, G and H. That's all?
Sir, among the discovered elements, yes, sir.
Oh, you mean in the discovered elements, G and H is also found?
Sir, I don't know.
Okay. So, but you were telling no, in the discovered elements, G and H is also there. Okay. So any other answers? SPDF we have. Any other subshells possible? Is the question. Okay. Can I call it as Summit? Which is Summit?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. That's something. Okay. See, of course, as he said, there is G orbital. Okay. So G is possible. If G is possible, how many orbitals are there in G subshell? There are 9 orbitals. F subshell has 7, G subshell has 9. Like that, there can be H, I, J, K, it goes on. For a given atom around the nucleus, how many shells are possible? Can you tell me? For a given atom around the nucleus, how many shells are possible? Anybody? How many shells are possible? 7. Okay. 7. After that, question mark is for me. Okay. Oh, Vaidya says only 4 shells. Ashish G Shetty says 6. KLMNOP. These are the 6 shells. Okay. That's nice, I say, Ashish. So 6 shells and KLMNOP also. Which are those? Okay. So it's not even 7. It's only 6. How many shells are possible in an atom around the nucleus? So 6, 4, 7, something. That's all. There are no more shells. Rather, we would say around the nucleus in an atom there can be any number of shells, meaning infinite number of shells. Okay, so infinite number of shells gives you some kind of imagination that if there is an atom, there is shells everywhere. Correct? No. So that's why any number of shell which is amounting to infinite number of shells is the correct way of understanding. After you move around or away from the nucleus, there is energy levels. It goes. There is some kind of state called as continuum that is attained. After that continuum, electron is out of the influence of nucleus. Okay. So, however, there can be many number or any number of shells possible around it. Is that okay? But it is not that in every shell electrons are there. In all the known elements, okay, in all the known elements so far, whatever we have, electrons are found present up to 7th shell. That's why the answers are coming in 7 shells. Electrons are there up to 7 shells, but number of shells can be any number around it. Okay, you would have heard that you take an atom, give energy, electron goes to higher energy. Any energy, it depends on the amount of energy also. So as a result, what we can conclude is in an atom there can be any number of shells, means every shell has subshell. If many shells are possible, many subshells also should be found, of which we have 7 shells known in all the elements, and SPDF subshells are only filled in these 7 shells. G, H, I, J, K subshells are possible, but all these subshells are not filled in any of them. That's why whichever is familiar for us, we think only that much. 7 shells are there and SPDF subshells are there. So, but beyond that also, it is possible to have shells and subshells. Okay. Now, yes, electron is there in an orbital. Orbital, subshell, subshell in a shell. Shell around the nucleus makes an atom. Now, electron resides in its room, that is orbital. Then how do we define an orbital? So orbital is a 3-dimensional region in space. Look at that. Orbital, as I told you, it's a room of electron. A room is 3-dimensional. So orbital is 3-dimensional region in space around the nucleus where probability of finding electron is maximum. Is it okay? It's like, you are there most of the times in your row. Once in a while you come out also. You will have food, you come out, you have some break, and again go back and study. At least we expect you to do that. Okay. It is not that, no, sir, I always remain outside. Once in a while I go and sleep in. Not that. Studies are important for you, right? So you need to be there inside the room. At least let my example have some meaning. Okay. So you are inside the room always. Once in a while you will come out. In the same way, it's the 3-dimensional region around the nucleus in space where electron is found with maximum probability, which means electron seldom can come here and there outside, little away from it also. But maximum probability is there around 3-dimensionally around the nucleus. That 3-dimensional region where electron is found with maximum probability is orbital. Is it okay? Like that, yes, P, D, F are significant orbitals, which we generally know. And in all the elements, these subshells are filled. Correct? What is the shape of an orbital in each subshell? Is it okay? So we know S orbital. When I say S orbital, the 3-dimensional region in space around the nucleus is spherical. If the 3-dimensional region in space around the nucleus is spherical, then it is called S orbital. Now, can you people tell me what is an orbital in P subshell has the shape? What shape it has? Can anybody tell me? What shape an orbital of P subshell has? Yes, I've got a response. Dumbbell. Okay. So, any other shapes? Spindle. Flower shape. Oh, you have your own nomenclature for the shapes, not the ones which are given in the textbooks. Flower shape, spindle shape. Okay, so that's something. Okay. So the dumbbell is the correct answer. P is dumbbell. Then what is the shape of an orbital in D subshell? Can you people tell me? The shape of an orbital in D subshell. D subshell. Come on.
Double dumbbell.
Exactly. So double dumbbell. Okay. Any other shapes like flower or cauliflower? Huh? Okay. So that's correct. So D is double dumbbell. Okay. Then F is complex. F orbital is complex. When I say complex, the structure is, that means the 3-dimensional region in space around the nucleus where electron resides in F orbital. It is such a complex 3-dimensional structure. In textbook, it is not given. Of late, they have given structures for F orbital and they call informally as distracted double dumbbell. Okay, so it is not acclaimed completely and incorporated in the academics. Recently, it's been given all the 7 orbitals shape in F subshell. It is highly complex for sure. It is a kind of distracted double. As of now, we can say that much. But as far as academics is concerned, in the syllabus, we just say it is complex. Now, S spherical, you can see the complexity, how it enhances from SPDF. Okay, it goes on. So S is spherical, Dumbbell, double dumbbell, F is complex. And there is no question. Obviously, GHIJ become very, very much complex. That's why I told you in the beginning. As you go inward inside the atom, it becomes much more complex. Things are quite complex. Outside universe, complex. See, say there is a kind of analogy, right? So you can see this diagram. S orbital spherical, keeping the nucleus at the origin. So maximum probability where electron is found around the nucleus is spherical. That region is spherical. Okay. Let's say you are in your room, and room can be generally square or rectangle. Okay. By any chance you have built a circular room, your orbital, that is room, is spherical. That is circular. Okay. And if you have built something like zigzag, your orbital is zigzag. So like that here, the three-dimensional region where electron is found around the nucleus in an atom, if it is spherical, it is like this. S orbital, dumbbell, you can see this. So electron is distributed. Come on, tell me. Is there any question from anybody? Madam, Eli? Sudha, madam? I thought Sudha madam is also asking some question. Now, d orbital is double dumbbell. You can see, I told you just now, no? It's a kind of distracted double dumbbell for F orbital. A miniature version of that has been given here. So, but we only say up to D, and F we say it's complex. Okay. So these are shapes of orbitals. Okay. Now our question arises about electron. Yes, orbital is there in a subshell. Subshell is there in a shell. Shell is there on the nucleus. That's all there. So electrons can be filled into these orbitals. Several electrons in many orbitals are distributed in different subshells of various shells in an atom. 1 second, students. 1 second. Okay. We'll move on. Sorry, there was a power issue. Okay. I had to switch off. Switch off. Okay. So now we'll take a photo. See, electrons are there in an atom in orbitals, okay, which belong to different subshells and different variations of an atom. Now the question that arises is, how can they be distinguished? There are several electrons in an atom. There can be up to 118 electrons. There can be an atom with 30 electrons, 70 electrons, 1 electron, 12 electrons. Yes, electrons are distributed in various orbitals of different subshells in various shells. The question is, electrons are unique with respect to their mass and charge. How one electron can be distinguished from another? Okay, there can be one more question for this question also. What is that? How can we distinguish one electron from another? The question for this question is, why do we need to distinguish? Correct? No. Why do we need to distinguish, basically? Okay. Uh, for this fundamental question, can anybody answer? Is there any requirement for us to distinguish one electron from another in an atom? Do we need to distinguish, or electrons are same? Can anybody answer this now?
In order to identify what type of substance we are dealing with, it's better to distinguish between electrons and count the number of electrons.
Okay, okay. Yes, correct. This is correct. Is there any other points to be added? Okay. There's some chat response here. Okay. How we distinguish? That's fine. They can be distinguished with their spin. That's correct. But why do we need to distinguish? So Aniruddha gave me some answer. Is there any other explanation for that? Based on their energy. How do we distinguish is fine. Why do we need to distinguish? After all, why do we need to distinguish? All are same, no? In terms of electron mass and charge, it's the same. If you can answer why do we need to distinguish, then we can see how to distinguish. Correct. Now sometimes we keep studying things without knowing why do we need to. Okay. Anyway. So any other explanation for that? As I think Aniruddha has told the same thing. See, when two atoms combine, okay, I have got some response. Let me see and then come back to my explanation. To know the arrangement of electron. Now, when we say to know the arrangement of electron, the question again arises: why do we need to know the arrangement of electron? Correct? No. Why do we need to know arrangement of electron? Question is there, right? Then you can't tell me, sir, what is this? You can't question us like. Since you didn't question me, I'm questioning you. That's all.
To identify which atom it is.
Can you tell me again? What is that?
To identify which atom it is.
Why do we need to identify?
To understand what is the structure of that.
Okay. Why do we need to understand the structure?
To help understand the world around us.
To help understand others. Okay. To know.
To judge the result of the reaction. I mean, if we're performing few reactions.
Why do we need to
judge the
get the
result.
result of a reaction? Answer to know the amount of positive and negative energy in an atom based on the electron. Okay, I'll come back to your answer. Okay, why do we need to judge the product or something? No, all your answers are correct. I'm not saying it's not correct. All your answer is correct. But fundamentally, why do we need to? Why is required? Why do we need to know the products? Yes. All your answers are correct, as I told you. See, basically, why electron must be distinguished from one another? When two atoms combine, a molecule is formed. When two other atoms combine, another molecule is formed. These two molecules formed from in the first case and second case have different properties. The way first molecule reacts is different from second. If we don't know the arrangement of electron, then we'll not be able to predict the type of molecule that is being formed. How to know arrangement of electrons in an atom to predict the type of molecule that is to be formed in a reaction? By distinguish one electron from the another. Correct? So, if you can identify out of 100 electrons in an atom, if you can point out the 71st electron is this itself, 100th electron is this itself, first electron is this. If you can identify, you can differentiate. If you can identify, you can differentiate. You can differentiate. You can know about how and why and which electron will take part in the reaction when two atoms combine. Okay, when two atoms combine, which electron undergo rearrangement, which electron is transferred or gained or shared. That results of those analysis will help us in understanding the nature of the compound form. If you know the nature of the compound, you will understand the application better. If you know the application, you will have its own, properties which are explored. Like for example, I want to prepare a particular drug. Now, the existing pandemic, the COVID-19 and COVID-21 now, correct now? This COVID-21, but much more dangerous. So now everybody are preparing. Okay, there is vaccination which has come and some more to add now. And meanwhile, there is the medicine which is already being prepared. How do they know about all these things? It's all about knowing the life cycle of the pathogen and what it consumes, what is its metabolism, what is that, everything. To know all these things, they need to know atom. To know atom, basically electron structure. Which electron type? What is that exactly? So in order to counteract the effect of this pathogen, that is maybe a virus or a bacteria or fungi, whatever, you need to design a drug. To design a drug, you need to know the properties of the molecules and atoms which undergo in a reaction. So let's say I am going to design a drug for COVID-19, a medicine. So for me, I need to know how to produce that medicine for. To know that, I need to know the atoms and everything which will take part in it. So finally, it comes to the electron structure. If it comes to electron structure, how to distinguish. So all these things will add up to the end result. So these are all fundamentally one need to know as a science student about it. Is that okay? So hope we shall proceed. You understand? So how can they be distinguished is the question. Now one electron can be distinguished from another by using set of 4 numbers. Set of 4 numbers, simply some numbers. These 4 numbers define or distinguish one electron in an atom with another. They give information about these 4 numbers. They give information about position, shape of orbital, momentum, spin. By using these, any electron can be identified and thus can be distinguished. They are called quantum numbers. Now, we want to know a little more about quantum numbers. Don't worry. We have detailed discussion in our syllabus of atomic structure when we get into the first PU actual syllabus. Okay. So just know about quantum numbers are used to distinguish one electron from the another, or in other words, they are used to identify the electron. They are like addresses of electron. They are like addresses of electron. So why addresses are used? Addresses are used to identify or detect. You are there in a house. Your house number, the cross or main or block area. So all these things basically are required to identify. So these are like quantum numbers, or 4 numbers. They're like addresses of electron, by using which you can identify every electron in an atom. Okay. Yes, we have about 118 elements now. Means an atom can accommodate several electrons. Distribution of electron into various orbitals is not random. It's not like let's say there is a classroom of some 60 or 70 students. So simply you rush in and take some place and go. Sometimes your mode is not quite. You're going to go to the last bench. Now you are interesting. You have some interest in the subject, and you come to the front bench. So it's not like you being accommodated in a. So you also may say that no, so in our section, I'll always sit at one place. That is also there. Like that, in an atom, electrons are arranged not randomly. Systematically, they are filled into various orbitals in different subshells of various shells. So that's what it means when I say distribution of electron into various orbitals is governed by set of rules. Is that okay? So you too know, when you go on a road, there are certain rules. You can't dance and go. You can't keep jumping. Everybody sees. So parents will scold you, hey, you have to go the way is required. Have some manners. So that means there are certain rules in place. Like that here also, to fill the electrons into various orbitals. Randomly, it can't be. There are certain rules. These rules can be termed as rules governing electronic configuration. The very term electronic configuration itself means filling electrons into various orbitals in different subshells of various shells. That is what is electronic configuration. For example, if I take 1s2, 2s2, 2p6 like that, when I say this is electronic configuration giving details of how many electrons are there in which orbital of different subshell in a shell. 1s2, when I say there are 2 electrons in s orbital of s subshell in first shell. When I say 3d10, there are 10 electrons in d orbitals of d subshell in third shell. So this is what writing electronic configuration is, giving details of where exactly electron is present, how many, and which orbital, which subshell, which shell. Okay. Now, writing electronic configuration means filling electrons. So this filling up of electron is always according to certain rules. Now, again, we are going to just take briefly, just to quench your interest and also the need for understanding this. That's all. Okay, little basic things. Okay, this Aufbau principle. Some people say Aufbau, Aufbau, but don't say Aufbau. Okay, so it is Aufbau principle. So Aufbau principle means it is to build the electron. Aufbau itself means it is to build. What is to build? To build the electrons into various orbitals. What does this principle say? Electrons are filled into various orbitals in the increasing order of their energy. Which energy? Not electrons energy. The energy of orbitals. So an orbital with lower energy is filled, followed by the orbital with higher energy. That's the meaning of that. Okay. An orbital with lower energy is filled, followed by the orbital with higher. So that is the meaning. Okay. Now, how do we decide the order of increasing energy of various orbitals? Okay. How do we just decide? What is the increasing order of energy of various orbitals? For that, there is some energy profile diagram that we need to write. So, in the remaining time, I'll just give you one easy way of understanding this. Okay. First, how to write this? How to get the increasing order of energy of various orbitals? Okay. We'll write 1s. Then in the second shell of an atom, there is 2s and 2p. Like in a third shell of an atom, 3s, 3p, 3d will be there. In fourth shell, 4s, 4p, 4d, 5s, 5p. 4p. Let me take this. I just need this. One second. Yes. In the fourth shell, 4s, 4p, 4d, 4f is there. Like that, here in the fifth shell, there is 5s, 5p, 5d, 5f. There is 5g also. Okay, like that in 6s, 6s, 6p, 6d, there is 6f, 6g, and 6h also. Like that, you can see one more thing you can observe here. In the first shell, there is only one subshell. In the second shell, there are 2 subshells. In the third shell, 3 subshells. In the fifth shell, 5 subshells. In the 8th shell, there can be 8 subshells. In the 10th shell, there can be 10 subshells. In the 100th shell, there will be 100 subshells. But what are significant ones? S, P, D, F. Rest all are not significant. Why? Because in all the known elements, 118 elements, electrons are there up to 7 shells and present in S, P, D, F or subshells. So that's why though 5G, 6F, 6G, 6H are all possible, we would not mind. Okay, we don't consider it because they're not filled in any of the elements. So that's why there is kind of increment in the beginning. If you go up to 5F, then you can see one by one orbital is being reduced. Even 8s is also not filled in any of the orbital. It is simply written to have a kind of arrow shape there. That's all. Okay. Now you draw arrow mark downward and follow the arrows from head to tail. Now this is head and this is tail. Like that, head to tail, then you get the increasing order of energy of various orbitals. Okay, so how increasing order of energy you can see here. So in the first case, 1s orbital has lowest energy. Next, we'll go to head to tail, 2s orbital. Next, we'll go from head to tail. So 2p, please. That's what I've written. 1s, then 2s, 2p. In the next line, I've written 3s, 3p. After 3s, 3p, what is very important you need to observe? After 3s, 3p will be filled because 3p has more energy than 3s. After 3p, which is filled, not 3d. 3d will not be filled. Though 3d is there in the third shell, 3d is not filled. After 3p, 4s is filled. After 4s, 3d is filled. Why it is so? Because according to Opper principle, 4s orbital has lower energy when compared to 3d. Okay, 4s orbital has lower energy when compared to 3d. So you just need to know. See, 1s, 2s, 2p, 3s, 3p. Till here, one after the other, we are going to fill the electrons. Okay. Discontinuity happens from 4s. You remember from 4s, discontinuity happens, and that too, wherever you write 4s, D has to be filled from 4s onwards, not before. Okay, wherever you write 4s, D has to be filled, and the D value, shell value of D should be 1 less than the shell value of S. 4s, you would write 3D. You can see 5s, you would write 4D. So wherever you write D, the shell value of D should be 1 less than S. Okay, like that. You need to remember one more thing. What is that? From 6s onwards, F subshell also starts filling. From 6s onwards, F subshell also starts filling. Wherever you write F, the shell value of F should be 2 less than shell value of S. You can see here, what is the shell value of S here? 6s. 6. So when you write F, shell value should be 2 less than shell value of S. So 4F. And I told you D, shell value should be 1 less than S. So 5. And P will be same shell value as that of S. You can see 4S, 4P, 5S, 5P, 6S, 6P. Now, like that, you go to 7S now. 7S, F will be filled, shell value will be 2 less. D will be filled, shell value will be 1 less. P will be filled in the same of S. With this kind of understanding, you can just remember the entire sequence of increasing order of energy of various orbitals from 1s to 7p. So I'll tell you now, you have to remember, there is no discontinuity up to 3p. 1s, 2s, 2p, 3s, 3p. No discontinuity. Discontinuity starts from 4s onwards. From 4s, D fills, F will not fill. From 4s, D fills, wherever D is written, shell value should be 1 less than S. 4s, 3D, 4p. 5s, 4D, 5p. Next, second part. From 6s onwards, F also fills. Wherever F subshell is written, shell value should be 2 less than shell value of S. So 6s, 4F, 5D, 6p. 7s, 2 less. 5F, 1 less. 6D, 7. So with these things in mind, without any confusion, from 1s to 7p, you can easily remember the sequence. If you remember the sequence of all these orbitals, you can write electronic configuration of up to 118 elements. Later, it becomes very important. So 1s, 2s, 2p, 3s, 3p. No discussion. 4s, 3d, 4p. 5s, 4d, 5p. Now 6s, 4f, 5d, 6p. 7s, 5f, 6d, 7p. That's all. If you know this much, it would be sufficient for writing electronic configuration of all the 118 elements. Okay. Hope this is more than 1 hour session. We'll continue remaining essential things of this writing electronic configuration, how much it is required for us in the next. Okay. So if you have any queries, if you have any doubts to clear, you can ask me now.
So should we write down this diagram?
Okay. If you can write the diagram, that's fantastic. That's for practicing. If not, once this bridge course is complete, I'll post this entire thing, the PDF copies of this, into the group that you can always do. But it's good to write always when you listen to me. Not only me, to any teacher. When you listen, if you start writing simultaneously, that's called running notes. Running notes means take notes and run, not that. Listen and start writing. So this has to be practiced in the higher studies. So that should start from now. So later in the year, nobody will come and tell you, take down. Okay. So you should know what to write, what not to write in the notes, in the running notes. Okay.
Sir, I have a doubt, sir.
Okay, tell me.
Sir, 3D, usually in elements like copper and zinc, 3D 10 will be there, no, sir?
Correct.
But then if it's double shift, that means there will be only 8 electrons filled in the equation.
There are 5 orbitals in D subshell. Each orbital is double is. Each orbital can accommodate 2 electrons. 5 into 2, 10.
So where's the 5th double number?
That 5th one has slightly a different shape. It is having a circular ring around XY plane and a dumbbell lobe along the Z axis. Though it is having slightly different, it is given the same nomenclature as double D. But when it comes to DZ square, it has slightly different structure. That's the one thing that you need to note under 5 different. But capacity is only 2 electrons. Same as.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Is there any other query? Right. Hope students you've understood. We'll meet in the next class for remaining concepts. Okay. Till then, take care. Be safe. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm going to end the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.